Americans, how do you feel about the fact that the stock market has lost $2 trillion in value today? Not great, Bob. I'm a millennial. You can't hurt me with financial despair. I'm terrified. If I had any retirement savings, I'd sure be upset. I do have retirement savings and was planning to retire in a couple years. Those are down about 30% already. My job is seriously at risk. My future is being flushed into the toilet. I'm beyond pissed at everyone responsible for this mess. The list is long, but Trump is at the top of it. If I said how really feel, I'd get permanently banned. 2 trillion in value so far. It's way more than the stock market. So many of us in manufacturing have companies that sell to other countries. They are pivoting and freezing orders, going another way. It's really fucked up. The current situation, not companies that are understandably spooked or pissed. This is the part that even the dumbest of dum-dums should be able to grasp. Even if manufacturing comes back to the United States, the people who would buy made-in-the-US shit has been shrunk by such an insane amount. Also, Americans keep talking like they're getting manufacturing jobs back, when that's absolutely not happening regardless of whether or not we get a bunch of new factories. Manufacturing jobs were initially lost to offshoring, but now those jobs no longer exist due to automation. So if we get manufacturing back with these tariffs, we won't. We will not see the surge in jobs. Fox is promising. Another big issue is that manufacturing just doesn't pay shit. You're lucky to find something that pays over $21 an hour in most states. So, while everything is going up in price, food, housing, basic necessities, even our hobbies, no one is going to want to work the lower-paid manufacturing jobs because they can't afford to live on them. But I guess that's why they're bringing back child labor, me checking my 401k. First time I've seen Republicans vote to raise their own taxes. Encouraged. The most effective way to rile up voters is to fuck with their actual money. I build boats for a living. I've been doing this since the 90s, and tomorrow we expect to be laid off due to a lack of orders. This should be the beginning of our busy season, a balls-to-the-wall situation, and I had about an hour's worth of work to do today. I just can't understand how we threw it all away for someone who's been such a famously, notoriously sleazy loser for so long. Every bit of that last sentence. I'm 45 and grew up reading Mad Magazine and cracked making endless fun of him. Then, when I was a little older, read my parents' spy magazines that talked about what a sleazy, terrible businessman he was. If I knew that stuff as a kid in the Texas suburbs, how could he have so much support? It's baffling. For someone who ran on an anti-inflation platform, he sure does love inflating the US dollar. Being able to say, "I told you so," doesn't make up for the fact that our country is circling the drain. It fucking sucks. Obviously bad. Not to mention, even if these tariffs are taken off the table, it's already done permanent damage to the idea that America is a stable trading partner. What do you expect from someone that has been declared bankrupt 6 times? What could possibly go wrong? Every day I wake up and wish more billionaires actually face consequences for their actions instead of the middle and lower class dealing with it. I do also wish that when I see Trump stickers on a vehicle, it wasn't driven by some ancient, craggedy-ass old dude who likely won't live to see the long-term ramifications of their vote. Everybody's only concerned about the money we lost today, and that's a real concern. But the market can change over time. What Trump did today was even worse than destroying our economy. He solidified our country's status as a worldwide bully. While the economy may rebound over time, or not, who knows, our relations with the rest of the world will not. They will look elsewhere for more reliable trade partners, allies, and leadership, and we will never regain the measure of respect that our country once had. The impact of this man's egotistical and short-sighted leadership will resonate for generations to come. Someone forgot to put me on the Signal chat, so I could have been told to sell yesterday. I'm much too poor to even understand how that would affect me. My plan of not saving for retirement and instead traveling the world in my 20s and early 30s due to a foreboding belief that the world will become dramatically unstable thanks to bad politics or the environment collapsing is currently paying off. I'm concerned, in my late 40s, grad school, white collar, but I volunteer at a local org with a lot of people in their 20s, and they're absolutely thrilled. Was on a 4-hour van ride with 8 young people from all walks of life this weekend. In addition to the stock market, they also hope home prices crash, etc., and many would rather get into a high-paying union or trade than earn a master's degree. It was eye-opening to say the least. My generation was basically get as much formal education as possible, which will lead to the most hard-to-get jobs, which will lead to higher paychecks. That's not true or believed for many young people today. If nothing else, at least young people are more aware about taking on massive loads of student debt compared to earlier generations. Young people seem to want asset prices to crash since they don't own many assets, but they also have the time and energy to do jobs that people my age and older are too tired and unwilling to do, like working high-paying HVAC in Phoenix. They also have arguably the most important resource: time. I think it's important to remind oneself that U.S. society isn't a monolith, and what 20-somethings want, most hope for, is very different from what 30, 40, and 60-somethings want. Personally, I see more worldview gaps between ages/generations and sex/gender nowadays than race. I say that as a POC. Having said all of this, I think what young people don't realize is that a crash in asset prices, especially housing, will just lead to corporations, Moscow's high-net-worth individuals who can secure cheap debt buying up more of the country's housing stock, since many people who want to buy homes during a crash will be unemployed, unable to afford to buy them. My advice to some of them was just to work, network, and save while they're young. Networking is especially important nowadays, more so than good grades from school or a second major. If the WH admin would put more regulations over mortgage deductions for second homes, foreigners without green cards buying SFH, etc., I'd be all for that. But the real estate, realtor, Washi's construction lobby is strong and has its tentacles all over both parties. Regardless, the stock market should be a long-term investment vehicle based on risk-reward tolerance, not a day-trading roulette table subject to emotions and political seasons. I'm guilty as charged. If you're investing regularly each month long-term, then the ups and downs shouldn't make you lose your mind. When things go south, you're investing at a discount. Phew, the U.S. stock market has been a roller coaster over the past several months, as well as several years, but it's still up about 50% from 2 years ago. That's still an insane return, and I didn't trust the Trump bump that occurred from November to February as something being sustainable. Living in Southeast Asia, many of my friends here wish they had invested in U.S. equities rather than regional equities/real estate over the past decade. Odd. I'm 22, and that is definitely not my peers' view of this all. Even if housing prices collapse, we know we still won't be able to afford it because we haven't been able to save enough, and a lot of us are barely making rent. I'm lucky enough to live at home, but unlucky enough to be chronically ill. Among that, unions are going to be attacked and possibly completely dismantled by Dump and his dumpsters, and many are likely going to lose our health care. Food will skyrocket, and industries will collapse due to other countries not wanting to buy our goods. They are already picking protected public land to start drilling and mining in, and protections in our food industries is being dismantled. We are out of WHO and about to be out of NATO. My generation was basically get as much formal education as possible, which will lead to the most hard-to-get jobs, which will lead to higher paychecks. That's not true or believed for many young people today. Different country, UK, but I left university in 2008, right after the banking bailout over here and into the global recession. I had been sold on get the grades, go to college, go to uni, get a good job. Some near 20 years later, I work in care. Hey, I have a job, which I could have done without having a student loan that will take off a chunk of every payslip but never go down. I am at least lucky enough that I got in before our tuition fees went up, since it could be more each month. I can't imagine the majority of students in either of our countries are going to get much out of the whole process as it stands today. You either need connections or to be going into a doctor or teacher kind of job. Young people seem to want asset prices to crash since they don't own assets. Stupid unless, of course, they're cash buyers. Banks don't lend in recessions. The vast majority of my investments are long-term with no intention to sell any time inside a decade, and I'm not in any particular risk of losing my job. So, despite seeing a very large negative number, I'm not super bothered. I haven't sold anything, but I've also been holding off buying new positions over the past few months, so I'm sitting on a big chunk of cash too. What I am pretty concerned about is for my parents. They were both looking at retiring very soon, and having a major downturn hit right as they're looking to do, that could be pretty bad. Also, on a less personal level, this just feels so unforced, which is probably the most frustrating element. We'll see how it actually plays out. But yeah, I'm not super happy about it. Real talk, I loathe Trump, and his policies are stupid. At the moment, despite the clickbait headlines, we are still only in minor correction territory. It can, and will, if something doesn't change, get a whole lot worse. I'm hopeful that Congress starts to see they need to be a guardrail on his dumbest impulses like they did with the Canadian tariffs yesterday, and at least manage or reduce the bleeding. Personally, I think this is all a distraction. The non-economic things he is doing are much worse than this. Skirting due process, ignoring judges, undermining entire branches of government, turning his base and many others against the media, gutting government agencies without congressional action. The tariffs and economic results are just nothing compared to the damage being done to our government institutions and checks and balances built in to ensure a government that works for its citizens and not the other way around. So basically, I could give a flying fuck about the blip on the stock market that, again, despite the sensational headline, is not yet a big deal. And I actually am really frustrated everyone is talking about this instead of much more important shit right now. Do you not understand that it's all part of the same strategy? Trump believes he should control all aspects of the U.S., including every branch of the federal government, the judiciary, Congress, which has so far shown near absolute fealty to him, education, research, and the economy. He is ruling by fiat, consequences be damned. This is just the next step of him asserting control, and he doesn't give a shit about the economy and the U.S.-led global trade order, built slowly over decades out of the ashes of WEO. His beliefs are based on a fiction, and he's not the kind of person to ever admit when he's wrong. It's damn sad. I'm an American living in Europe. My friends and extended family here are boycotting the U.S., and my wife and I have also divested from the U.S. market to reduce our exposure as much as possible. And for us and the rest of the world, we will mostly be fine. Other trade agreements will be signed, global trade flows will be reconfigured, and the U.S. will be cast aside as a pariah that dug its own grave. And the position of the U.S. as the leading power among Western democracies is dead. And it's not coming back anytime soon. Even if the tariffs are rolled back and the economic hit is less than feared, one can hope, it will take decades before the U.S. is seen as a reliable partner on literally anything, from trade to defense to foreign aid and democracy. It's over. No going back. And for reasonable Americans, it's a damn tragedy. For those that voted for this, shame on all of them. Listen here, buddy, Trump's tariffs ain't just about trade. They're about keeping American soil free from foreign molecules. You ever seen a Chinese Electron? Didn't think so. That's why my truck only runs on purebred U.S. gasoline. I don't know. About as good as anyone would feel screaming about the iceberg we're about to hit than watching the water pool around our ankles. Satisfied in being right, but damp. I feel like it is adding years until I can retire. I feel like it is a power grab because Trump can create exceptions to those who bend the knee to him, moving money to those who lick Trump's ass. I feel like this was a huge step toward autocracy or oligarchy, and Congress sat by and watched it happen. I remember Trump bragging daily about the stock market growth every single day during Term 1. He says nothing now as it's falling at record pace because of him. He can no longer blame Biden, not that he could have before. If I were a WH press correspondent, I'd last just one question before being kicked out. I'd ask Trump if he's considering reaching out to Biden for advice on how to save the economy. 52% of Americans own zero stock. Of the 48% that do, more than half have less than $10,000. Basically, only wealthy people got fucked today. The poor people will be fucked in 2 to 3 months when everything at Walmart is double the price. Plus, corporations will use tariff as an excuse to raise prices more, just like they did for inflation. Wealthy people who got fucked on paper today will buy in next week at the bottom and ride those record corporate profits back up. The rest of us stay fucked, and everything is more expensive. I don't really care. I'm decades away from retirement, if I get to retire at all. By then, the planet will be so fucked that we'll be fighting wars over drinkable water and whatnot. So I'll probably just take the easy way out at that point. Let's be real. Around 40% of Americans have no skin in that game. Nothing in the stock market. Number 4, 01k. just working paycheck to paycheck and saving nothing. Not concerned at all. I have probably another 20 years or more in the market, playing the long game. If I was near retirement, I may be a bit more upset, but this is also why a lot of financial planners suggest shifting your assets balance more to bonds as you near retirement. I could give two craps about the market loss. I care about the actual increase to cost of living once these ridiculous tariffs take effect. I care about the instability this brings to the working people who bust ass every day to eke out scraps. I was banned for 3 days from Reddit for saying an obvious combined, collectively shared thought regarding Trump. I served 10 years in the US military for my right to free speech. I think I'm pretty much done with all this fucking bullshit. Fuck Trump. Fuck Vance. Fuck Musk. Fuck Dodge. America is no longer a place I'm proud to be a part of. Thank God we own an apartment in Germany. I expect to be banned again. This is the world we live in. It is all by design. The rich who were in on the scam pulled out at the start of the presidency. That's why the market has been correcting. They knew that the goal was for Trump to destroy the economy and tank the stock market. Now, while it has crashed, the rich in on the gig are going to buy back into the market. Trump will reverse a bunch of policies, making his friends richer. Classic pump and dump scheme. Meanwhile, Americans are left OT pick up the pieces and rebuild. It is all by design. The rich who were in on the scam pulled out at the start of the presidency. That's why the market has been correcting. They knew that the goal was for Trump to destroy the economy and tank the stock market. Now, while it is crashed, the rich in on the gig are going to buy back into the market. Trump will reverse a bunch of policies, making his friends richer. Classic pump and dump scheme. Meanwhile, Americans are left OT pick up the pieces and rebuild. The way I see it, this is necessary hurt for correcting course. Too long, American politicians take temporary gain at the expense of long-term failure. Many markets are propped up with glue. That's why it's necessary to focus domestically. Otherwise, it's buying into the exponential growth fallacy. Nike lost billions today because of tariff in Vietnam. I don't care. Stop exporting all of our jobs for cheap labor that amounts to sweatshops for corporate greed. I sold all my stocks in my retirement account in early February and haven't looked back. Sitting on cash, invested some in EU defense stocks, and bought some currency. I'm up a bit, but haven't lost a dime. Also, I'm sorry for the orange idiot. I didn't vote for it. This represents an S&P move of 4.3%. That isn't that big of a deal. The market was overvalued to start with. I like it personally. I am still saving for retirement, so I am contributing to my 401k. I personally prefer to buy stocks when they are on sale. Fucking terrified. I remember 2008. At first, it doesn't seem like it'll affect you if you don't own stock. But that kind of mass destruction spreads and has the tendency to pull everyone else down with it. Mad as hell. Bringing everything to USA sounds great, but it will never happen. And Trump, Musk, and billionaires know it. Tariffs, market crashes, and higher prices are taxes. The party of no taxes and lies is known to crash markets and bring on depressions throughout our 250 years of history. Job opportunities that pay a living wage and benefits are disappearing fast. MAGA GOP Dems know they can't bring back manufacturing because AI and automation is the future, and education in USA doesn't train people for global competition using these new tools that don't depend on human labor or knowledge. Americans couldn't afford Made in USA outside big cities, but now Made in USA will be impossible for lower and middle classes. Costs are rising, and we are all suffering, including the voters that supported Project 2025 that really only benefits MAGA GOP and billionaires. Americans, how do you feel about the fact that the stock market has lost $2 trillion in value today? I don't see a problem, because it's correcting the last 4 years of inflation and the last 15 years of artificially low interest rates. The Dow needs to drop another 8,000 points, actually, and that would probably take several more years of this to happen. Our economy was fucked long ago, and this is the correction. We'll have rich globalists trying to cause a panic to break the tariffs, because they're the ones taking it in the ass. But as far as what's going on with the market now, it needs to happen. The stock market has lost $2 trillion in value so far. There's still tomorrow. And then next week, when y'all might start seeing retaliation. Strap in. You're only going up the lift hill at this point. Gross overreaction. I will be investing heavily over the next few years personally. Getting a lot of shit for saying this, but it is what it is. This is a great opportunity to buy. It's a terrible time to retire, though, if you're at that point. Be greedy when others are fearful. Love it. Burn the whole system down. I'm done trying to reason with people. I was born into generational poverty and thrive in it. I'm going to be fine. Maybe the country collapsing will make people change. Or it won't. I'm just done and exhausted. Yeah, it's an interesting take. It wasn't that long ago the Occupy Wall Street folks were wanting to burn it down, or the complaining about megacore and rich people making all the money. Yet here we see many of those same folks complaining about the market. Trump is destroying America. Get out of the stock market, head for the hills. He won't stop until America is fully destroyed. Hope for new nations to be established before it's too late. When I saw a dude on Faux News essentially say, ignore the stock market, I was like, that's it, we're all royally fucked. If this were happening under a Democratic candidate, they'd be rioting in the streets and calling for the Dem president's head. But since it's their beloved orange man, suddenly all these fuckers have turned into world-renowned economists overnight and seem intent to find the imaginary silver lining in this massive fucking shit sandwich he has created. Unfortunately, some really stupid, greedy, narcissistic individuals voted for self-elevation over the betterment of society. And a whole lot of equally stupid people opted not to vote because apparently America runs all by itself like a never-ending machine that they just don't have time to get involved with. For those of us who could see past the golden calf's convoluted, self-grandiose promotion and narcissistic greed, we realize the repercussions are justified. We are working hard to fight the tidal wave and hope we will survive these 4 years. We also hope to be good friends again with people around the world. Many of us are so very sad and so very sorry. If you enjoyed this ride through Reddit's sharpest takes, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching The Reddit Realm, where your favorite Reddit stories come to life. Until next time, stay curious and keep scrolling.